Okay, this is continuing on with topic 2.2. We've got esters. So this is our last type of naming that we've got to learn. It says an ester is a organic compound formed by chemical reactions between an alcohol and a carboxylic acid. Esters are used for flavoring and fragrance. And the reaction of the carboxylic acid and the alcohol also creates a water molecule. So this process of creating an ester is known as esterification. You take an alcohol, they're giving you the example here. So we've got an alcohol and a carboxylic acid, and these parts that are highlighted in particular are the part that's basically going to connect. So the hydrogen on the the hydrogen on the alcohol is going to leave basically, and the OH on here is going to leave. And if we see those two things leaving, an H and an H and an O, that gives us H2O. So that creates water, and when those are gone, we've got those two things will connect. So the alcohol and the carboxylic acid will connect to make that ester, and then the water molecule. Okay, so that's esterification. That's how we create it. So we learned about how to name an alcohol, we learned how to name a carboxylic acid. Now we've got to learn how to name an ester. So to name an ester, you must be able to identify both the alcohol and the carboxylic acid component of the ester. Locate the ester functional group, so locating that double bonded O, single bonded O with a carbon. Because remember, if we're looking at a carboxylic acid, which is right there, if we're looking at this also has a double bonded O, single bonded O, but it's connected to a hydrogen. The difference here with a ester is that that's connected to a carbon. So there's another carbon and possibly another carbon chain. Okay, so really important that we keep note of that. It says the part of the molecule attached to the single bonded O is the alcohol. So whatever part has the single bonded, this becomes the alcohol. So for us right here, this would be considered our alcohol. And the double bond part would be considered the carboxylic acid. So in this case, that's the other half. I'm going to do that in a different color. Okay. So this would be the carboxylic acid. I'm going to write carb. And this is the alcohol. So the part of the molecule attached to the single bonded O is the alcohol. We name this with the appropriate prefix. So it will be named like an alkyl group. So methyl, ethyl, propyl, that sort of thing. And the part of the molecule that's the carbon attached to the double bonded O is the carboxylic acid, and we will name this with the prefix for the number of carbons. So methane, ethane, propane, or propan, I guess, ethane, methane. And then we're going to change the ending instead of ane to O8. Okay? So let's try one of these. These look extremely badly drawn. It's more just the fact that they get messed up when they are put into this program, I think. Okay, but I will highlight everything we need to know. So our first job here is to figure out which part is the alcohol and which part is the carboxylic acid. So this, with the one that has the single bonded O, that's right here, this whole part would be considered the alcohol. The other part that has the double bonded O would be considered the carboxylic acid, okay? So just to refresh back to here, so we figured out which part is which. We want to name that part that is the alcohol with as an alkyl group. So we are just going to say this part with the alcohol is going to have 2 carbons. So with those 2 carbons, we've got an alkyl group of 2. If we go back to our data table, which I always like to go back to, a carbon with 2 is an eth. So this would be an ethyl. All right. And then the other part is our carboxylic acid. So if we go back to these rules, it says name this with the prefix for the number of carbons. So instead of naming that how we normally would, we will name it a little bit different. There's 1 carbon there, which means it's going to be a meth. And we are going to name it like meth. And then if we look back, it says to put O8 at the end. So it becomes methanoate. Okay? Now to name that all together, we need to say basically the branch first and then the methanoate. So we got ethyl methanoate. Okay, so that's how you will name that. I'm just going to show you where that is on the general formula sheet. So we've got esters, gives you that formula, gives you an example, and they've got methyl ethanoate. Is that the same one we just did? We did ethyl methanoate, so very close. So they've got a methyl on this one side is their alcohol, and the other side is the carboxylic acid. So we've done it correctly. That's ethyl methanoate. All right, let's try the next one. It looks like a huge mess, but again, it's just the formatting, so don't get stressed over that. What I need you to find is the alcohol. We see the single bonded one right to the side, so right here. So that means that this whole molecule is the alcohol, and then the other one, this would have to be the carboxylic acid. So for the alcohol, the one in the yellow, we are going to name that like it's a branch. So this alcohol branch has 3 carbons. So if we go over to here, we check what number 3 is. We see it's prop. We're going to write propyl. I don't really need to write this on the side. I just am showing you where I'm getting that propyl. So that section, there's 3 carbons and it's got a single bonded O. That's your alcohol side. We use propyl. And then on the blue circled one, we have the double bonded O, and there's 2 carbon chain there. So a 2 carbon chain is an eth. If you look at your sheet, why am I taking that? So we want to go ethan, and then because it's a ester, we put O8 on the end. So for our final answer, this would be propyl. Ethanoate. Right? So that's how you name your esters. All right, let's go to the next one. Our first task, figure out which one is the alcohol, which one is the carboxylic acid. I see the single bonded O right there, so I'm going to say this is our alcohol. And our double bonded O is over here. So that's this thing, would be considered carboxylic. The alcohol is always a branch. It's got a YL ending. And we just need to figure out what two carbons are. We can see it's ethanol. But it's really ethyl. Ugh. So we don't put any ANEs or anything in there. It's not ethane, it's just ethyl. All right, so that's an ethyl. And then the other part has also two carbons. If you can see that, there's two carbon chain there. So with that two carbon chain, we get an eth as well, but it becomes ethanoate. So always have the carboxylic acid side named as O8 at the end. This is really important right there. And then an ethyl, the YL ending is going on your alcohol, okay? So our final answer would be ethyl ethanoate. I feel like these might be even easier to name than some of the other ones that we've done, but as long as you know all of them, when you get to your diploma, that'll help you to solve this stuff. So here we've got quite a mess. This O right here is a double bonded, and I believe it's supposed to be double bonded to this carbon. I'm going to say that, oops, I'm using the wrong color because this double bond would be our carboxylic acid, and that one I have been doing in blue. And then the single bonded O right there is going to be connected to all this. It looks like a clustered mess. Not even positive what's going on there. Let me check, does this look any better on your page? Yes, it looks much better on your page. So what's happening here? It's just bent. So this line, it's supposed to, yeah. That's the bond right there. So if we're gonna follow this chain, then this is the chain of carbons. So it's a 4-carbon chain. So that 4-carbon chain would be a bute. So 4 carbons right there, that's a bute, B-U-T. So this becomes a butyl. That sounds pretty funny, but it is a butyl. Okay. And then the other one, there's a 3-carbon chain. That one is not a butyl. This was that's the carboxylic acid ending, which is AOTE. Just kidding. It's OATE. OT. There you go. And then because there's a 3-carbon chain right here, we are going to name that one as being 3 carbons would be prop. So we would write propanate. Propoate. I guess not propanate. Propoate. No, it is propanate. Wow. I wish you guys were here to help me not mess up. So this actually is propan, and then we write 08 at the end. So I was right when I said propanoate. So this final answer becomes butyl. Propanoate. I don't know if I have enough room. I will write it underneath. Propan 08. All right, so that's our final answer on that one, and that's how you would name that. So that brings us to the questions that it wants you to do. It says here that it wants you to do page 73, question number 23, ABC, and then also question 24, A and B. So it's cut off there, but I'll write this. So question 23, A, B, C, and then it also wants you to do question 24, A